station.
The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your host, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, Happy New Year to everybody. New Year's Eve, obviously. Be safe, be careful, whatever you might have planned. By the way, happy anniversary to my wonderful wife. She's put up with me for 21 years as of today. Who knew we'd make it that far?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, ain't it?
Inconceivable.
Uh-huh. As for today's show, a former Cup owner gets a ruling on his bankruptcy filing. Did you know about that? More speculation as to Jimmy Johnson's potential number that he might run in 2023. We'll get to talk about something called the High Limit Sprint Car Series. What is that? Well, stick around. We'll tell you. Formula One team principals and their drivers decide who they think the 10 best drivers of 2022 were. In other words, they're voting on themselves. We'll let you know about that. Andretti Autosport joining a new series, not necessarily the one that we've been talking about the past couple of weeks. All those details and more coming up on this week's edition of the Championship Racing Network.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here with you on the final show of 2022. Chi-Town, Mark.
Double deuce.
Yeah. It'll be 2023 tomorrow. I get it. Sometimes we have a hard time changing, like, whenever we have to write down a date. You're like, oh, gosh, I forgot it's the new year. But let's not, let's not blow through a year that we haven't even started yet.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He probably hasn't had his morning coffee yet.
Probably true. Good morning, Chi-Town, Mark. Glad you're listening. Some years ago, ESPN began this noted 30 for 30 series of short films. They're still doing them up to this day. Some of them are really great. Some of them, They did one really good one on former pro athletes that have filed for bankruptcy after they got out of the sport that they were in. Mm-hmm. Thing about it is they didn't do NASCAR team owner. Now, I will say this. Ron Devine's time in NASCAR came after this 30 for 30, but I think it would have been a good case study.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Devine, 5 years ago, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Seems, though, that after all the proceedings, the court said, you know what? You got to pay $31 million anyway. So much for filing bankruptcy.
Oof.
Here's the details. Ron Devine, in case you had forgotten about him, he was the owner of the woe-begotten BK Racing from 2012 to, well, the early part of 2018. A company that paid to other Devine-affiliated companies and trusts about $6 million, according to reports over that same time period. And reports claim that there was another $11 million that reportedly a trustee claims requires reimbursement as well. Oof. Judge in the case ruled that Ron Devine did not comply with all requirements in the discovery and disclosure phase of his bankruptcy court case. And because of that, he owes the full amount that he filed for bankruptcy for, $31 million.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Big Macs.
Ain't it?
Well, that's pocket change.
Or Whoppers. Seeing as Devine was a big Burger King franchisee, I guess he still is.
Yeah.
Is he still? I mean, I don't know. I don't know whether he still owns those franchises or not, hence the name BK Racing.
Since I'm out of it today, since I'm saying Big Macs are with Burger King.
Yeah, really. Hey, close enough. Mm-hmm. Anyway, and as one old saying in racing goes, there are many, let's face it, but this is one of them. Want to make a small fortune in racing?
Start with a big one.
3 days before the 2018 Daytona 500, he filed for bankruptcy. He was subsequently stripped of the team in favor of the trustee. But from 2012 through 2017, as we talked about it, BK Racing, kind of a woe-begotten team. They only claimed 3 top 10s in that time. The best finish, Matt DiBenedetto at Bristol in 2016, finishing 6th. By far, the best finish BK Racing ever had. The thing about it is, I mean, BK Racing just kind of went poof.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to any of the assets of BK Racing?
If you hadn't have said it, I would have been able to tell you.
Yes. Putting Matt Nicholson on the spot.
I forgot. Somebody bought the assets of it, and I can't remember who to save my life.
And he was running Toyotas.
Yeah. I think some of the assets went to the old Go Fast team. I think. Okay. Some of the cars did. I can't remember where the haulers went. But kids, do we remember where he purchased BK Racing from? You remember this little team called Red Bull? Oh, yeah. That's where BK was born from.
Red Bull might have been better off if they had stayed as owners.
Yeah, they would have been. They would have been.
Last week, we talked about how Richard Petty, the king, would be riding on top of the NASCAR float for the Tournament of Roses parade. Turns out he won't be alone. He will be joined by a Craftsman Truck Series driver that he's probably rather familiar with. Talking about Rajah Caruth. He'll be driving the number 24 for GMS Racing this coming season. Sponsorship from the Wendell Scott Foundation. They're probably both pretty much on the same location. But we talk about the Cup Series, it's Petty GMS Racing, whereas in the Truck Series, it's just GMS
Yeah,
Racing.
they're on the same campus.
I would have thought, why don't we just go ahead and put the Petty GMS name across all divisions that you're going to compete in?
I could see it coming.
It should.
I could see it coming.
Yeah.
It's probably just a matter of not if, but when.
Do it now.
I think.
Do it now. Get in the chopper. Oh, sorry.
Get in the chopper.
Sorry. It's a weird day, ladies and gentlemen. You have to pardon us, okay?
Yeah.
Coming up in a few, we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. We've seen so many. We've actually seen many NASCAR drivers compete in that, but more often we tend to talk about the Indycar drivers, and that's where we're really going to pick up on that. NASCAR drivers, when they tend to run in the offseason, they like to see some big events as well, but they tend to do things like, the Chili Bowl.
Uh-huh.
Chili Bowl Nationals are coming up. First of the drivers to announce, Josh Bilicki. He's going to drive the 7C entry for Ramco Speed Group. Bilicki, not the most experienced dirt racer. Got his first start on dirt in 2021 at Bristol in the Cup Series.
And we're going to go to the Chili Bowl. Come on, guy. Come on.
I figured the dirt racer over here might have a comment.
Come on, dude.
Bilicki said of this chance, quote, I've had the itch to race the Chili Bowl for many years, but this is the first year that all of the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. As someone who grew up racing on road courses, making the transition to NASCAR and paved ovals, this is something completely out of my element and comfort zone. I believe some of the best drivers come from this form of racing. I'm excited to learn all I can from this experience.
This is something completely out of my element and comfort zone. You think?
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. I like the last few words. I'm excited to learn all I can from this experience because apparently we're going to continue to dump dirt on the concrete pavement at Bristol and make them race on that. He can only learn from it, but this is the equivalent of saying, hey, Josh, let's go up on the high dive, and you, despite the fact that you don't know how to swim, we're going to dump you into the deep end.
Cross your fingers and hope you don't sink.
Bingo.
Good grief.
As for the Chili Bowl entries overall, got 350 participants over, actually, that are entered officially into it. Two names kind of strangely missing. Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell. Larson has been outspokenly critical of the winner's prize of the prestigious event, which still, as it has for many, many years now, is holding at $10,000. It does seem low, I'll admit. So Larson, who we're going to talk about a bit more later, is instead choosing to go over to New Mexico for something called the Wild West Shootout, with a potential purse if a driver is able to sweep all 5 nights.
Huge.
$300,000. Bell is also notably critical of the prize money for the winner, so he decides to sit it out as well, which might make you ask, well, why is it still only $10,000 for the person who wins arguably one of the most prestigious dirt races around the country?
If you've got 350 plus entries and you have to run the prestigious alphabet soup just to get into the race, you can put out a little more than 10 grand just to win.
According to the promoter of the Chili Bowl, Emmett Hahn, it is really all they can afford due to the price of putting the race on in an indoor arena in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, I don't know about that. We'd have to open up the books, and I don't see them opening it up for us at any time too soon.
If Sir Anthony Wayne Stewart of Columbus, Indiana, can put up $1 million purse for a late model race in 2022 and then change it over to the Sprint Car Series for 2023,
You'd think you could up your prize.
you can come up with a little bit more than $10,000 to put up for a winner just for a Chili Bowl, and you win a trophy that may be as tall as 2 of these bottles stacked up tall together.
Well, and here's the other side of it. I mean, as prestigious as this particular event is, can you not find a title sponsor that would be willing to put up, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to make you up that total prize purse?
Lucas Oil has a substantial chunk in that.
I'm just asking.
No, I get it. Yeah, I
You know,
get it.
It seems like that there are opportunities there that you could actually go with a sponsorship in some level that would actually allow you to increase the size of the purse.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, and Mark will probably be quick to jump on this,
Oh, sure.
I think the Snowball Derby had an issue not all that long ago with people talking about the purse not being as high as it should be. And look what happened. Went up.
There you go.
So if your two biggest names in open wheel sprint car racing are
Arguably
sitting
so, yeah.
out,
Maybe it's time to open up your eyeballs.
yeah, maybe it's time to go, let's change this 10 to 40, 50.
I could see 50. 50 might bring him back. Because if you think about it, we talked about if you swept all 5 nights of the Wild West Shootout in New Mexico, if you looked at the breakdown, and I could have gone into it, but it just seemed like so much detail. I don't have the details in front of me. I did last night, but if you break it down, the minimum prize, I think, for winning one night was somewhere around $20K. If they can do that in New Mexico in a race that, for all intents and purposes, I'd never heard of until this, why can't the Chili Bowl, which arguably is much more prestigious and maybe one of the most prestigious races going on of all levels of racing in this country,
Right.
one would think that they could do it as well.
Yeah, this is what I'm
While he's looking that up,
seeing what I can find here.
despite the fact that Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson are not going to be there, several NASCAR notables are going to, as we just talked about, Josh Bilicki. Alex Bowman's going to be there. Chase Briscoe is going to be there. Last year he was running NASCAR. This year he's returning to IndyCar, talking about Santino Ferrucci. He's going to run. So there are some names that are going to Tulsa that are going to race in this. But again, you got 2 big meatballs that are sitting out there that have decided we're not going to Tulsa, we're going elsewhere, or we're just going to sit out. That's huge.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah. Any luck?
I'm still digging.
All right. Petty GMS Racing got themselves a new co-owner. We've been talking about this basically since the season came to a close. 7-time Cup champion Jimmy Johnson's bought in as a part owner of Petty GMS Racing, with the promise that at some point in time it'll probably change the name to Petty Johnson GMS or Petty GMS Johnson Racing. I don't know how it's going to turn out. Either way, it'll probably change at some point in time. Either way, the likelihood is that Johnson is set to come back to the Cup Series and run a select number of races this coming season. Heard a whole lot of people kind of wondering what number he would use. 48 still belongs to Hendrick Motorsports. I don't think even for Jimmy Johnson that they're all that likely to give it up. They could, but I'm not holding my breath waiting for it. And neither is Petty GMS president Mike Beam. He does have a potential alternative, though. He talked to Forbes magazine recently and said this, quote, "Once we made the announcement with Jimmy, people started connecting the dots. 7 times 7's 49. We got 2 7-time champions. You multiply 7 times 7, you get 49. Be the perfect number for our team, Richard Petty, Jimmy Johnson. No, that number's not official, so don't go planning on getting the die-cast collectible just yet. But 49 is available. Last time it was used in the Cup Series, 2020, in a car owned by Carl Long. Remember him, kids? It was driven by Chad Fincham. Okay. I don't think Carl Long's holding on to that number.
No, I don't think he is either. And I think if it says, hey, we want the 49, yeah, you can have it.
Yeah, sure.
I wouldn't mind seeing it come back.
Wouldn't bother me. I guess we'll see. It does seem to make some sense, though.
It does.
You know, I like where Mike Beam is going with that.
It does.
We'll see whether it actually
It's
happens or not.
$25,000 to win each night.
Okay, so $25K to win each night.
$25,000 to win each night.
And if you sweep,
You get a $300,000 bonus.
yeah, on top of the
$25,000 that
per
you
night
already
for
win.
5 nights, which is $125K.
And I'm going to say this
Ooh,
on record
hello.
on this show. The car that Kyle Larson will be in, he has a very high chance of pulling that off.
I could see that. I mean, again, this is a race that I don't know that much about.
It's basically,
And we're going back to this comment about the Wild West Shootout out in New Mexico.
it is basically what you would call, in similarities, it's like the Roar before the 24.
Okay.
It's the warm up to the main breakout race, which starts at Speed Weeks, which is the Super Bowl down at Golden Isle Speedway. They go out west to get the preseason air quotes started.
Let's knock the rust off.
It's not the preseason though. This is, we're not going to play around. We're going for big money here.
Right. We're going to start
Kinda
the
deal.
season off with a big bang, and then we're going to go to the premier event. We'll able to knock the rust off, but hey, there's good money, so let's go attract as many big names as we can.
Let me back this up. This is the late model version of the Clash
Okay.
cash grab.
I got you.
It's not for points. Point season don't start until Speed Weeks in Florida. We're going to get some money.
It's all about the money, folks.
Yep.
All about the money. Which, hey, I don't have a problem with that. You know, I mean, that's really what this beginning of the year is. This is a chance for you to go out there, have a little fun in the off season. Let's see what you got for 2023, because by now you probably got your cars built.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Good grief. Yeah, they're built.
Let's pull them out. Let's see what you got. And this is a chance for you to, without points necessarily on the table, yeah, a lot of money, but without points necessarily on the table, you got a chance to shake it down, and you can realize, hey, this car's really strong, or I might need to do some work in this particular area to get the car to be stronger.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good deal at $25K per night as well to win. And again, if a driver, nice little lure here, nice little carrot on the end of the stick out there to say, hey, if you can sweep all 5 nights, not only do you get the $25K per night, $125K total, we'll set you up with another $300,000.
Yeah.
That'll help you fix any problems that you might have on those cars. When we come back, we'll talk about street course racing, because apparently more than one city would like one.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Two tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, appreciate you checking us out, whether you're checking us out on the FM dial or the flagship station's app, which can take you all over the place. Speaking of which, catch us anywhere by going onto YouTube and looking up CRN Live. Tell your friends about that, by the way. It's an easy way anywhere across the country to check it out. Radio show on video. Yeah, we do that. CRN Live on YouTube. You can subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. And you get notifications every single time that we go live on that particular page.
Yep.
Tell your friends about it. It's a great New Year's gift. Doesn't cost you anything, and it doesn't cost them anything.
Bingo.
It's good stuff. Don't forget about our website as well. Check it out, which is crnradio.us. Make sure you put the .us on there. If you go to .com or .net, that's not us. crnradio.us. That's the three of us. John does a great job with that particular website, and we appreciate it. With the inaugural Cup Series street course race looming large on the 2023 calendar in Chicago, Chi-town, Mark, NASCAR officials are saying that several other cities have begun to express interest in a street course race as well.
No.
NASCAR President Steve Phelps says, pump on the brakes on that for right now. No decision on future street course races are going to be made until after we get through the Chicago weekend. Got to talking to Racer.com's Kelly Crandall and said, quote, I don't know what our 24 schedule is going to look like. Talking about 2024. But it's going to have more changes in it, that's for sure. Until such time as the fan base says enough, we're going to continue to drive change throughout our industry. It's change that really either delivers a better product or brings it to a market where there's a significant demand for our racing. Since we announced the Chicago Street Course race, the number of cities that have reached out to NASCAR is significant. Saying things like, hey, we would love to have a street course race with NASCAR. Well, now we're certainly going to wait to see how this first street course goes before we'd make any commitments to anywhere else. It's going to continue to evolve in terms of what the schedule looks like, but in general, I think what you've seen as a result of schedule variation, what we do from diversity, equity, inclusion standpoint, or any number of the other changes that are happening within the sport, they're bringing relevance again into the overall kind of population of this country and around the world.
No. No.
That was simple.
No.
I see where he's going with this, but again, we're not talking about nimble cars. Let's go back, shall we, to, circa 1990. And let's talk about, kind of like they did in the movie Days of Thunder, the difference between stock cars and open wheel cars. The tires on a stock car are half as wide, but the car weighs twice as much. But in Indycar, the tires are twice as wide and the car weighs half as much. Meaning what? It means that an Indycar or a Formula One car or an Indy NXT, I got to get used to that, Formula 2, whatever single-seater open-wheel car is a much more nimble vehicle than a Cup Series car is, or an Xfinity Series car, or God forbid, a Craftsman Truck Series truck.
And what he means by nimble is it can corner easily.
Yes, as opposed to Cup Series cars, and I get it, these Gen 7 cars were meant to be able to handle road courses a heck of a lot better, but as we all know, there is a difference between a road course and a street course. Dedicated road courses, read Barber Motorsports Park. Read Circuit of the Americas. How about Watkins Glen or Sonoma or Road America or Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course? We could go on and on, but you see where I'm going. These are courses that are dedicated specifically for the high-speed cornering for race cars of several different variations, from IndyCar to Formula One all the way to the Cup Series. They can handle that. We've seen the course that they're going to run in Chicago. The vast majority of the turns in Chicago are going to be 90-degree corners. While you have them in these dedicated road courses that the Cup Series runs on, nowhere near as prevalent as they will be in Chicago. I mean, effectively, you're going drag race corner, drag race corner, drag race corner.
Ladies and gentlemen of the congregation,
Preaching time.
dearly beloved, we'd gather here this fine morning on this radio station
Sing it, Prince. Oh,
last year with these cars, which style of racetrack produced arguably some of the best events of the year?
Mm-hmm.
That would be mile and a half.
Mm-hmm.
A complete 360-degree flip of 2021 versus 2022.
I would agree.
Road courses in 2021 had some of the best events. Road courses in 2022 had some of the worst ones.
Can't really argue that.
And the last I checked, I'm going to say this real softly. In this little town called Joliet, Illinois, there's a perfectly good mile and a half super speedway.
I wouldn't necessarily call it super speed.
I'm going by technical classifications, but mile and a half racetrack. Let's go back to that.
Yeah.
A perfectly good mile and a half speedway. Let's go with a technical term of it.
Yeah, you might have heard of it.
sitting
It's
there.
called Chicagoland.
It's sitting there with a worn out abrasive surface. What racetracks produced the best races last year? Mile and a half worn out abrasive surfaces, with Texas Motor Speedway being the one outlier that lays 150 miles past the left field foul pole.
Yeah.
Not even in the ballpark.
Yeah, they've messed with that way too much.
Charlotte Motor Speedway was the 600 was a phenomenal event.
I would agree.
I was there. I watched it with my own eyes.
And let's talk about it for just a moment. Before they changed Atlanta, and they did a nice job with it. I'll give them credit for, making it a wonderful brand new facility with a brand new pavement,
Seen
of course,
it.
brand new rules.
Drove on it,
But the thing about it is before they had put the new pavement down, that old pavement, the drivers continued to rant and rave about the fact that they loved how much personality the old pavement had at Atlanta Motor
Sure.
Speedway.
Absolutely.
Now, it was coming up on 30 years old. It needed to be replaced. I understand that. Sooner or
yeah.
later, it's going to get to the point where you just have to do it whether you want to or not.
Mm-hmm.
But they took that as far as it could, and the drivers loved racing at Atlanta because of the personality that was there. Guess what's got personality? Chicagoland Speedway. But yet we're going to throw that out the window effectively. All that money that was spent building that facility, they ran on it for what, 15 years? Ish.
2001 was the open race in Chicago. 15, no, I think 18 or 19.
15 to 20 years.
You said, yeah, just use that.
15 to 20 years for a facility that they spent, I don't know, minimum $250 million. We'll just put it that way, on building. Because you got to buy the land, you got to grade it, got to put the surface down, got to put the grandstands in, got to put all the buildings in the infield, you got to put the media center up there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. $250 million's probably low for the Chicago area.
Probably.
But we'll just say minimum $250 million. And you did not race there for a full 2 decades. You've effectively thrown it to the wayside, and you decided, you know what? We're going to run a street course. Huh? Thank you, Steve Phelps, for at least pumping the brakes on it and going, hey, let's see how this one goes before we decide to commit to any more. I appreciate that, but I'll be honest with you. I think this is really not that good of an idea. We said this from the moment that it was out there as a potential rumor for a race. We didn't care for it. We still don't. But of course, obviously they're not listening to us about this because for the second year in a row, we start in Los Angeles, go out to Daytona, and then go back out west.
Just even looking at how they're going to structure this, they're really not calling it a race. They're calling it an event. If I'm unloading my $750,000 to $1 million race car off of a lift gate of a featherlight hauler, I'm going to a race, not an event.
I would hope. If I'm going to an event, to me, that tells me I'm putting my car up on a turntable and letting everybody stare at it.
Looking at just sheer prices of tickets alone. They're trying to mimic an F1 event. And I fear they're going to fail miserably trying to mimic an F1 event.
Yeah.
Because you tell me, let's say the average fan average run-of-the-mill Joe Blow fan here that comes to Talladega Superspeedway religiously every year, both weekends.
Mm-hmm. And we've got 'em.
You tell me which one. You tell me if he's going to say, oh, I'm going to take a special trip to Chicago just for me to get into the race is going to be $600, $500. No. He could fill a whole row up of the OV Hill South stands in Section A at Talladega for $500.
Yes, he could.
A whole row.
You get a nice parking place in the infield for that. Camping ground.
Oh, I could have a whole field day and spend the whole week in the infield at Talladega for $500.
Yeah.
Give me a break. I've got a feeling this one's going to be gone next year.
I hope so. I'm not a big fan of this idea, number one. Number two, I like where you're going with this because here's the thing. We've been talking about this over the last really several years now, in that IndyCar is seeing a resurgence in popularity. Obviously, Formula One is really starting to make inroads here in the country. Now, the monster of television ratings and the monster of people going to the races is still NASCAR, but they're vulnerable. And they're going to continue to make themselves even more vulnerable because instead of saying, hey, let's continue to do what brought us to the table, we're going to go and we're going to say, well, they're doing it that way. Why don't we do it that way? Well, if I wanted you to do it that way, I'd just go to them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why I'm watching NASCAR over these other two, assuming that you are. I want to see stock car racing. I want to see it at Daytona. I want to see it at Atlanta. I want to see it at Bristol. I want to see it at Martinsville. I want to see it at those ovals that I'm familiar with. Yeah, give me a couple of road courses. I'm okay with that. Dedicated road courses. I never tuned into NASCAR for the idea of a street course, and truth be told, I never tuned into NASCAR to watch them pour a whole bunch of dirt at Bristol.
Ding, ding.
Mark puts a valid question up right here.
All right.
And I'm going to answer it first. Road America or Chicago streets? Road America all day. And twice. Road America 7 days out of the week, twice on Sunday.
Sure. And here's the thing.
Every time.
Mark, you could have made reference to any road course in the nation over Chicago street course, and I would have chosen the road course.
Hands down. If you would have said Sonoma or Chicago street courses, and I'm telling you, and I've been open on this, I'm not the biggest fan of Sonoma. I'll take Sonoma all day.
Mm-hmm. You want to make it a little different? You're going to Watkins Glen about a month after Chicago street course. Go to Watkins Glen twice, run the boot one of them, and run without the boot the other one. I'd be all right with that.
I would too.
I'm going to watch because that's what we do. Matt and I, probably John, if he remembers, will tune in and we'll check out this Chicago street course race.
With me, you get one shot with this. One.
And I'm going to watch the whole thing because the next weekend, not only we're going to give you the results and a recap right here on this show, we're going to give you a review.
Hey, and if we turn the clock back to 2019, we know stranger things have happened. Phones may ring and say, hey, boys, you want to come? We need somebody to help me at work.
Sure. I'll be more than happy to go up there.
Put me on a plane to O'Hare tomorrow.
Or Midway. I don't care. Yeah, we'll go. We'll announce it. I'll be more than happy to be sitting there front row and center as one of the PA announcers so that I have a perfect critique of this. By the way, as PA announcers, we might actually get a better idea of the good/bad sightlines. Just
there you go.
I say we take a trip over to the Xfinity Series when we come back. You're listening to CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West, along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here on New Year's Eve. Whatever you may have planned for this afternoon or even tonight. Be safe, be careful, have a good time, though, okay? Turn our attention to the Xfinity Series, where posted a couple of days ago, Anthony Alfredo and his longtime girlfriend, Emily Brooks, now engaged. He posted on social media some 4 pictures of the proposal and added she said yes. Either they haven't set a date or they haven't made the date public yet, but hey, congratulations to them. Hope that it lasts a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. ARCA Menards East 2022 driver by the name of Leland Honeyman Jr. is set to run several races this coming year for Alpha Prime. The team just announced that yesterday. Honeyman, you could be excused if you have not heard of him before. He's a pretty young dude. 18 years old, finished third in the ARCA Menards East Series this past year, running for Young's Motorsports. Got three top 5 finishes and 5 top 10 finishes in his 7 races. It's a very limited schedule. Got a ride in the Craftsman Truck Series last August in Bristol, marking his top-level NASCAR debut. We don't know exactly how many races he's going to get this coming year, but the Phoenix, Arizona driver, Honeyman Jr., did get started racing at a very early age. How early? 4. Started racing quads at 2. Moved up to trophy carts at 4. By the time he was 10, he was doing some off-road racing. At 12, he claimed the Bandolero title in INEX and then moved on to the Carolina Pro Late Model Series, where he won the title there at 16. He's also competed in the Cars Tour as well in his time behind the wheel. He's probably going to be splitting time with Stephen Parsons, who we talked about last week, set to run a partial schedule for Alpha Prime Racing this coming season as well. Parsons made 12 starts for the team last year, top 10, 8th at Bristol. The team hasn't announced the race schedule for either driver, and I'm pretty sure that there's going to be at least one more driver, if not 2 or 3 more, to fill out this year.
Probably so. Probably.
Based upon the resume. I mean, I don't know whether you know anything hardly at all about Leland Honeyman Jr. There you go. But based upon his experience, it does seem like he's fairly capable of jumping into a car and learning about it relatively quickly.
Short tracks. He's got to run the short tracks to be able to get a grip on this Xfinity car, because you're going from the spec motors of Ilmore to basically an open motor.
Okay. So you're going to limit him to the Bristols, the Martinsvilles, and the Richmonds? Or
Bristol,
where might else you take him?
Maybe New Hampshire.
Okay. Would you dare take him to Phoenix early in the year? That's just a thought. I mean, he's a Phoenix kid.
I'd give Phoenix a shot.
Okay.
That'd be the biggest I would go.
Let me think. Where else? Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway? Forget where the Xfinity Series even runs there.
Nope, they don't.
Okay. Kind of nixes that then. Yeah, I was trying to think of where else you might take him. New Hampshire, I don't know if I'd take him to Dover. Dover being as high banked as it is, I might not be willing to take him.
He ran Dover in the ARCA East car last year.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, maybe.
I would, if it's me, and considering I communicate and talk with and buddies with the GM of Alpha Prime, I would go the Rajah Caruth schedule.
Okay, explain that.
Dover, Richmond, Martinsville, Phoenix, Bristol, kind of along those same lines as we was just saying.
And again, possibly in New Hampshire?
Possibly New Hampshire.
Depending on his schedule and maybe the schedule of Parsons or whoever else you're going to get to drive.
Yep.
Hey, there's a seat open. You got a race suit. You'd be ready to go with this.
Yeah, only if this car's prepared by a certain team. Yeah.
I understand. SS Greenlight Racing and their driver, Joe Graff Jr., have decided to part ways leading up to this coming season. Graff has been a part-time driver for the team since 2020. I say part-time, that's technically true, but he ran the overwhelming majority of the 99 possible races. He ran 90 of them. But still, he was out of the car for several, so that does make him a part-time driver for them. In that time, he only claimed a pair of top 10s. His best career finish actually came at Talladega last spring when he finished 8th. Now, SS Greenlight Racing has actually had better success. They even claimed their first win last year. Cole Custer was driving the 07 Mustang at that point in time in a car prepped, as you were alluding to, by Stewart Haas Racing. Now, Graff said he plans to make an announcement as to his 2023 plans soon. Meanwhile, SS Greenlight Racing team owner Bobby Dotter said he's looking at several drivers who might be able to help his organization. He released a video announcing all this and said, quote, "As we close out another season, it's time for change here. We've had 3 great years with Joe Graff Jr. and his family, and I can't say enough for him, how happy I was to work for him, how grateful I am for everything that they've done for us. But it's time for some new change, so we'll be looking at some different drivers next year." Of which I would imagine Chase Briscoe's probably going to get a couple of starts to get some Xfinity Series time under his belt as well, which also would do what? Give them a Stewart Haas Racing prepared car, and maybe a better finish than what they have experienced under Joe Graf Jr. I don't think Kevin Harvick would do it. I'm not so certain that Eric Almirola would do it. But I think Chase Briscoe would.
Briscoe, yeah. Ryan Preece, yeah.
Sure, Ryan Preece would. If you look down now that we've got Thor Sport Racing back into the Ford fold, obviously you've got Haley Deegan there, who did make her appearance or her debut late last year in there. I don't know whether Matt Crafton would care that much about it. Ben Rhodes might be willing to take a shot or two at it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Matt Crafton has proven himself quite comfortable in the Craftsman Truck Series. He has worked his way up and decided I didn't like it as much. I like the waters here in the Truck Series. So I don't know as he would necessarily jump at even an off chance to drive it one time. He might. But I think between him and Ben Rhodes, I think Ben Rhodes is the more likely.
Oh, absolutely. Give Tom Majeski a shot.
Sure. There you go. I mean, there are several drivers within the Ford camp that you could easily turn to and go, hey, want to ride?
This could, keyword could, very easily be the de facto SHR Ford All-Star car.
Sure.
Hello, Bobby Daughter. You're back on the map in a prominent way, son.
Yeah. I mean, we know that with the proper preparation, the car can be more than competitive.
Custer, Briscoe, Deegan.
Yeah. I mean, Custer and Briscoe were regular top 10 finishers when they drove the 07 car, and Haley Deegan in her Xfinity Series debut in the car prepped by SHR finished 13th.
Yeah.
Not horrible. Not horrible at all.
No.
So Bobby Daughter could do a heck of a lot worse than becoming a de facto SHR third Xfinity Series car.
Yeah.
And he could do a heck of a lot worse than grabbing 2, maybe even 3 Cup Series drivers and a couple of Truck Series drivers and putting them in his car. He could do a heck of a lot worse.
Yes, he could.
We'll see what happens.
I don't think he will, though.
Yeah, time will tell. Speaking of the Camping World Truck Series, we noted last week Haley Deegan joining Thor Sport.
Almost, Dave.
Thank you, Mike Tyson. Thor Sport Racing as the team switches to Ford for 2023. Deegan set to drive the number 13. Apparently she's not scared of that. Okay, good. She also said this could be a turning point for her.
And it'll be green, too.
In her,
And it'll be green,
It'll be
too.
green, okay. She said this, quote, I think the last 2 seasons in the trucks I've been trying to figure it out. Kind of learning the ropes, feel like I've got a good grasp on it now and understand what you need to be successful as a driver, what the team needs to do for their part, and the people that you need to have around you. Well, some of the people that she's about to get, series champions, Ben Rhodes, Matt Crafton. And she's going to be paired with the title-winning crew chief in the name of Rich Lushes. She's got 46 career Truck Series starts. Got 3 top 10s. Best of those happened to be Talladega this past year, where she finished in 6th. Thing about it is over the last 2 years running, she's also been voted the fans' most popular driver. She said she felt moving over to Thor Sport, a much more experienced veteran organization, exactly is what she needs. Quote, I believe in myself. You get to a point in your development where you have to take that next step. I think Thor Sport is a very established team and has a very established path of success. Now, as we noted, she signed on as a Ford Performance Development driver. Mark Rushbrook, who's the global director for Ford Performance Motorsports, said of Deegan at Thor Sport, quote, I think it's a great opportunity with Haley, seeing her progress these last 3 years with her and to watch what she's going to be able to do with the equipment and the people there, Thor Sport. We're really excited to have that in 2023. And also noted that her debut in the Xfinity Series last year in that car that we were talking about, the SS Greenlight Racing car prepared by SHR, finishing 13th in Vegas, it's prompted Rushbrook to say he'd like to get her some more opportunities in the Xfinity Series and get her more comfortable. Obviously, Deegan's excited by that possibility.
I have a small question.
Small? Okay.
At what point does the Camping World Truck Series turn into the Craftsman Truck Series?
I know. I'm still kind of going back and forth between the two.
I'm just wondering, officially, when does
Officially,
it
it's
take
now.
place? There you go. Far be it from me to
No, I'm still getting used to it.
to correct the professional, but
No, trust me. I'm still getting used to it. I'm still getting used to that change. It's going to be that same thing. Now, granted, I don't write a whole lot of checks, but it's that same thing of saying, gosh, it's 2023. Got to make sure I put that 3 on the end instead of the 2.
Yeah.
I'll get it. I swear.
And then tomorrow will be 4.
Yeah. I swear, I'll get it. Yeah, we get to skip a whole year. Thank you, Chi-Town Mark. Who knew? I will say this. Where she's been paired up with drivers who are basically kind of in the same situation she is.
True.
Fairly inexperienced. Nobody really there.
True.
That she could lean on for advice, or somebody that could come to her and go, I see what you're doing here, but you really need to do this instead. Mm-hmm. Now she's got Ben Rhodes, who is a title winner. Maybe more than likely, she's got Matt Crafton, who's a 3-time champion, who has been in this series for a good long time. And she's got a pretty good title winning crew chief. She is in a better position.
Much better. To quote, and I'm gonna spin it off of this right here. To what former interim head coach of Auburn, Carnell Williams, said, Auburn football gonna be okay. This coming season, Haley Diggins is gonna be okay. She's gonna be okay.
All right. It'll be interesting to watch her progress because, again, if her teammates embrace her and she embraces the advice of her teammates, she'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. They have to embrace her and take her under their wing, and she has to be open to their advice. She seems to be. It sounds good on paper.
It tells me, the way they're putting her with Luscious, what it tells me is they're flipping the teams. Deegan is going to de facto be Ben Rhodes' team from this year. Ben Rhodes
not
is
the worst thing.
Ben Rhodes is de facto going to be what Christian Eckes' team was this year.
Mm-hmm. Which is also not all that horrible.
No.
So Matt Crafton keeps his team, and okay, I can see that.
If ThorSport could sit on a manufacturer for longer than 300, no, excuse me. If ThorSport could sit on a manufacturer longer than 730 days, they swap manufacturers every 2 years.
Yeah.
ThorSport will be a lot better off.
Yeah. Well, I something tells me that there was something done here between Rushbook and ThorSport that greased the wheels on this. Question is how long?
Yeah, because
have they been greased for?
Yeah, because do you actually think Ford is going to get away in the truck series with running one truck? No. Not even close.
No. Ford ain't going to be happy with that at all. So, yeah. It didn't surprise me at all that they worked hard on that to try and get him back. And, yeah, it worked. And said, hey, listen, we got a driver who's got a built-in sponsor. I mean, Monster Energy ain't going nowhere. They're going to stick around with Haley.
Yeah.
So, they've already proven that.
Yep.
Let's turn our attention to some open wheel action, shall we? I'll go ahead and preview this before we do that. And this was an idea of Matt's, and John can take participation as much as he chooses to or not at all. This is mainly between Matt and myself. We're going to go with off-the-wall predictions. I mean, crazy, whacked-out predictions for 2023 for all of the major series that we cover.
Whether it comes down to one for each series, or you may have 3 balled into one.
There's a preview.
Call it the segment One Wild Prediction.
Okay. And that'll be coming up last segment of the show. All right. So we're going to do one for the Cup Series, at least one. Xfinity, Craftsman, thank you very much, John. Truck Series. SRX. I'm doing SRX. I don't know about him.
I've got one too.
Okay. NHRA, IndyCar, Formula One, Formula E. And if you got one for another, feel free to throw it out there.
We'll let you say NHRA because I forgot to notate my NHRA one.
There it is. Oh, well, I guess we'll wait. IndyCar's on deck, so is Formula One and Formula E. And we also got another series that we want to talk about as well. something that Kyle Larson is also very heavily involved in. We hinted about it here earlier on in the show. So plenty more to get to because we're only 1 hour in. Plenty more to go, plus predictions coming up in hour number 2 right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. And we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. Hour number 1 is down and in the books. If you're just now joining us, where you been? Make sure you join us an hour earlier next week. I appreciate you joining us, though, for this particular hour. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. And you might remember 1 week ago, we were freezing our ever-loving hindquarters off.
Or Tokus.
Yeah. Now it's warm with a little bit of rain. All these things are going to wreak havoc, potentially, on your foundation of your house. And if it's already doing that, or if your foundation was already in trouble and it's getting worse, left untreated, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars in repairs, or maybe the house becomes a total loss. You don't want to do that. Call our friend Michael Hart at Ox Foundation Solutions. That way you get a no-cost, no-obligation written foundation assessment. Find out what, if anything, is wrong with the house. If there is nothing wrong with the house, Michael Hart will give you a copy of his report, which says no problems found here or something to that effect. And you guys will wave and say, Happy New Year. But if there is something wrong, he'll sit down, he'll explain it to you, and he'll explain what all the fees are. And then you go, well, hey, I heard about it on the Championship Racing Network. Promo code WEST. Boom, he takes 15% off of the amount that he just quoted you. Give him a call, 205-362-6419. Email him, mike@oxfoundations.com. Don't forget that promo code WEST for 15% off any repairs that you might need. Don't take any chances with that home. Get it fixed. Get it fixed now because, again, it's only going to get much more expensive the longer you wait to get it fixed. 205-362-6419 or mike@oxfoundations.com. Get your house Ox strong. Do it now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do some open wheel, shall we?
Let's go.
When IndyCar went to Texas Motor Speedway early in the 2022 season, they decided to spend one practice session by having some of the drivers work up a little bit extra Firestone rubber into the track to try and work in a second racing lane. And IndyCar officials liked that well enough, they decided to have the drivers do it all over again when they went to Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. So with 2 successful trials of that, the series says, yeah, we're going to do it again. But only at those 2 tracks. But at those 2 tracks, they'll expand it out a little bit more. IndyCar president Jay Fry said, quote, we're going to do it again at both tracks, but we're going to do it with more cars. From Texas to Worldwide Tech Raceway, they had already doubled the number of cars there. Fry said, we're not going to make those sessions mandatory, but we're going to make it so everybody is eligible. We'll split them into 2 groups, 15 minutes apiece. It helped a lot then. We think it'll make it even better in 2023. Biggest complaint about IndyCar oval track racing of late has been the lack of side-by-side competition. So the series is hoping that this is going to create a little bit more of that and the availability to pass. It can't hurt.
No, it can't.
I mean, you and I, we just talked about it. I mean, Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway is one thing. But when you look at the situation that we've been dealing with at Texas Motor Speedway, and it's not just IndyCar, it's NASCAR as well. They've been playing with this track maybe a little bit too much.
And they've almost ran it down.
Yeah. I mean, you had a good track with some decent racing, and then you started playing with it to try and give the track a little bit more personality, separated out from your Las Vegas, Charlotte, Atlanta brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I get that, but when you start messing with the recipe a little too much, suddenly it loses everything that made it what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we are now, and that's why everyone started to fight so hard, fan-wise, to say the All-Star race doesn't belong there. And they were right. It doesn't.
Yeah. The one the one that I did go to out there.
You were unimpressed. I get it. You were unimpressed. And there's a reason why you were unimpressed.
Well, because I literally I thought I was going to turn into a smoked Cornish hen out there.
Well, yeah, that didn't help.
Being blazing hot.
But at the same time, if the racing is lackluster, if the racing's great, you'll put up with being somewhat uncomfortable.
Yeah. There's only really, to me, there's only one good thing about Texas Motor Speedway. The way the track is sitting and the way the stands are built and the way the sun can be in Texas in June.
Or late May.
Late May, June. Sun falls at a perfect angle and you're in the shade right when you need to be.
Well, there you go. But still, it's still blazingly hot.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the next thing is, whatever they're going to plan on doing. The fact that they've lost Eddie Gossage is a big problem.
Didn't help.
It's a big problem. So they got to figure out what the recipe is, get back to what made Texas successful in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's going to become Chicagoland. And that's not a good thing.
No.
That's not a good thing. Almost, if not every year, IndyCar and even, as we had talked about an hour ago, some NASCAR drivers take some time out. They head down to Daytona for the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Owners do it as well. Chip Ganassi, who owns teams that run in that event as well. Now we have some news about a powerhouse IndyCar owner pairing with a noted IMSA Series owner, and they're going to field at least one entry for the upcoming endurance race. It's Andretti Autosport. It's kind of strange. I would have thought they were already in that series. But they're not. Until now, where they formed a partnership with Wayne Taylor Racing. They're going to field an Acura ARX-06 entry into the rebranded GTP category. That used to be the Daytona prototype category. Now it is called GT prototype. It's the top level of racing. It's the fastest cars, generally the ones that, if you got the overall Rolex 24 Hours winner, it'll come from this category. Sponsorship from Konica Minolta. It's going to have the number 10 on the side. For now, the team is set to work out of the Wayne Taylor Racing headquarters, but they're thinking long term. They say once the new Andretti Global headquarters are finished, scheduled to open in 2025, they'll move in there. So they are thinking that this is not a one-time deal. They're thinking long term on this, which is why I say might be one entry now. Soon enough, I bet this gets expanded.
By 2026, I'm going to go ahead and throw my first teaser wild prediction. By 2026, Andretti Autosport will be across every single major series on the face of this earth.
You think Cup Series? You think they're coming into NASCAR?
He'll find a way.
Okay.
He'll find a way.
I don't know enough. I'll be honest with you. I don't know enough about Wayne Taylor and the Wayne Taylor Racing hierarchy. I mean, maybe this is Andretti's way of saying, hey, I'm going to give you the golden parachute.
Who knows?
And this might actually just become Andretti Autosport, formerly known as Wayne Taylor Racing. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
Maybe.
Let's see. What else are we talking about here? At this time, we got 8 drivers confirmed to be from Indycar, or at least with Indycar connections, into the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. The Meyer-Shank Racing pair of Elio Castroneves and Simon Pagenaud going to be back together in the same number 60 Acura that they won the 2022 overall in. Scott Dixon, who's a 6-time class winner himself in the endurance race, he's back. Colton Herta's set to run as well. So are Joseph Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin of Team Penske. This year, they're going to run for Tower Motorsports. Let's see who else is in there. LMP2 division, you got Renus VK from Ed Carpenter Racing. He's going to run for TDS. And get this, Romain Grosjean set to make his debut in the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. He's one of the factory drivers for the Lamborghini Squadra Corsa. He's going to remain with them for some select races as his 2023 IndyCar schedule allows. But, yeah, he's going to get his first chance at some endurance racing here stateside. I think, don't know this right offhand, but I'm trying to remember Romain Grosjean's resume. It seems to me as he may have run the 24 Hours Le Mans a couple of times.
Think.
Maybe.
Been
wrong before. I'll be wrong again. Just noting. But
Let's see here.
Got his resume up there.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, I was right.
He ran it in 2010.
That's his only time?
2010.
13 years later, good luck. Speaking of his old series, Formula One, we noted this on the show last week as well, that all the teams in Formula One set to beginning to let us know about their planned unveiling dates for their 2023 racers. 2 teams have already announced their plans. We talked about it last week on the show. Ferrari is actually going to, I'm going to go with Upstage because it just seems perfect. Aston Martin made the announcement that they're going to make their reveal for their 2023 look and car on Valentine's Day. Ferrari said, you know what? We like Valentine's Day. We'll do it too. All right.
We're going to see who loves who the most.
Team has a lot of promise. They began the 2022 season on fire, but they fell short, finishing second to Red Bull in the Constructors' Cup. Ferrari's keeping their driver lineup of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, so this will mark their 3rd season together. So there's stability there. But upstairs, it's change. Mattia Binotto is out. His last day with Ferrari officially is today. Coming in, Frederick Vasseur from Alfa Romeo Sauber. Ferrari says they're hoping to end a streak of being without a Constructors' Cup title that dates back to 2008. I'd say it's about time.
Yeah, close.
Frederick Vasseur. Gonna see what he can do.
We'll Let's go, Uncle Fred.
That's right. AlphaTauri has said that they have got themselves a launch date as well. They're actually going to beat Aston Martin and Ferrari to the punch by 3 days. They're going to unveil their look. Keep that in mind. Their livery. In Formula One parlance. On February the 11th, the look's going to show up on an older car. The actual car, internally codenamed the AT04, will be shown at the first preseason practice session, which will happen a couple of weeks later. Yuki Tsunoda returns for a second year in a row, but he's got a new partner. Pierre Gasly's out. Nick DeVries is in as the team hopes to rebound. They were 6th in the Constructors' Cup in 2021, but dropped down to 9th. Last year, they were even beaten out by Haas F1. Hello. Time to bounce back if you can.
Yeah.
Yuki Tsunoda is a little too hot and cold for me. And Nick DeVries, I get it. He came into the world at Williams like a house on fire, filling in for Alex Albon. You got to do that over the course of the whole year. They said he looked and he felt comfortable in the car basically from the get-go. But filling in for one race versus going out and running 23 confirmed, potentially 24, if they can find that replacement for the Chinese Grand Prix, which I still think that they're going to without much problem. Doing it over the course of 24 races, that's an entirely different story. Mm-hmm. Nick DeVries, spotlight's on you.
Come on down.
Mm-hmm. Formula One team principals got together. They submitted a list of top 10 drivers of 2022. I could not see what the rules were. So in other words, I don't know, for example, if Gunther Steiner was forbidden from choosing one of his own drivers at Haas F1.
You would think so.
It would make most sense.
Of course.
Because at that point in time, basically what you would have is Gunther Steiner at Haas F1 and Matt over there at AlphaTauri and me over here at Mercedes saying, my drivers are the best, so I'm just voting for mine and forget everybody else.
Yeah, because you know they're not going to let you put it in blind.
No.
That would be like if I'm the team principal of a team, Steve and John are my drivers. Naturally, you're going to say, oh, Steve won John 2 or John won Steve 2. However, they're going to be ranked 1, 2. Same if Steve's the team principal, me and John's drivers.
Yep.
He's going to rank one of us 1, 2. Vice versa. You would think that they would say, okay, you can't vote for your own drivers here.
Yeah. It would make the most sense.
Your drivers are got to be left blank.
So without knowing all of those rules, what we got was the result of the champion Max Verstappen, according to the team principals, was first by an overwhelming margin. Charles Leclerc, who was second in points, second according to the team principals. George Russell, third. Then you got Lewis Hamilton in fourth. Rest of your top 10, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Valtteri Bottas, Sebastian Vettel. If you compared that to how they finished top 10 in the driver standings, quite similar. Some are a little different, but for the most part, that's about the same. Then they turn around and put the drivers up for the same thing. One would presume you couldn't vote for yourself. Things were a little bit different. Now, 1 and 2 again were Verstappen and Leclerc. And then things changed. His fellow drivers put Lewis Hamilton up to 3, despite the fact that he was outperformed consistently by George Russell, who was 4th.
No.
Is that the ultimate respect for Lewis Hamilton and what he has done in the sport? Because it can't be based on last year alone. He was picking up on it towards the end of the year, but I'm sorry, he was flat for the first 2/3 of the year.
Yep, it's that and then some.
So it's got to be the respect for what he has done in his time in the sport. That's all I can say.
No, I agree. Fully agree.
Lando Norris 5th, Fernando Alonso 6th, Carlos Sainz 7th, Alex Albon 8th, Sebastian Vettel 9th, Sergio Perez 10th, Valtteri Bottas, who was 9th according to the team principals, didn't make the top 10 according to his fellow drivers. That's what they think of each other.
Yeah, it's probably. I ain't gonna say that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna let it go.
And I'm also gonna say this: I was not shown the full list of all drivers that competed in 2022, so I don't know where everybody else finished. Neither rundown went past 10. Just letting you know. So in case you wanted to know where Kevin Magnussen from Haas F1 after a year off ranked, I don't know.
I don't.
Don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where are we? Do we have enough time, John? Or no, this story's too long. I say we take a break. When we come back, Adam Baker, who's Audi's Formula Racing CEO, sat down, talked with Autosport.com, talked about what he would like to see when his company becomes the partial, half, whatever you want to call it, owner of Sauber, and they get into Formula One in 2026. We'll dive into that next. We're rolling through a Saturday morning on New Year's Eve here on CRN.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back.
Details.
2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here on this New Year's Eve as we get ready to usher out 2022 and welcome in 2023. We're talking about Formula One here, and Autosport.com recently sat down and did an interview with Audi's Formula Racing CEO, Adam Baker. Obviously, as you know now, they're buying into Sauber, and beginning in the 2026 season, it will be Audi Sauber specifically. Audi's going to be in charge of the powertrain, Sauber going to be in charge of the chassis. Well, what does Baker see? What is he wanting out of the pairing? Now, obviously, he wants to be competitive. His quote, "We want to be competitive in 3 years." It's a realistic goal. We want to compete for wins by the 3rd year.
Not a stretch.
I don't think so.
It's not a stretch.
When asked by Audi as to exactly why they chose now to get back into Formula One, he said this, quote, "There's no single reason. There were several factors that have aligned to make it extremely attractive for manufacturers, in particular for Audi." It's one of the reasons why Andretti Autosport would like to get in, just saying. Among those reasons, quote, "F1 is in a transition period with a sustainable concept for the championship. With these new rules that are coming in 2026, which will introduce innovative power units focused on the electrical part plus sustainable fuels." Remember, they're going to go to synthetic gasoline. Use that term loosely, coming in 2026 as well. "It is aligned with Audi's future strategy directed towards electric mobility. Also, F1 has increased in popularity. It is by far the best media and marketing tool in the motorsport world and one of the best in the industry." He added to that, quote, "At the same time, Formula One has achieved cost reduction that makes it even more attractive. The engines of 2026 going to have a spending ceiling, and that, in addition to the limiting of the costs, provides a certainty about long-term budgeting. If you want a fantastic platform to demonstrate your competence and knowledge 24 times a year, this is the place." I see where he's coming from. At the same time, we've talked about this. The hierarchy when it comes to expenses, when it comes to racing. Even with the budget cap
Right.
per car to field a Formula One car, one car, not both, one, is now in the general range of $141 million. Let me repeat that. So that's 141. Not 1.41, not 14.1, $141 million.
That's 141, 000,
To put a Hendrick Motorsports top line Cup Series car onto the track between 25 and 30 million. No budget cap in NASCAR. Remember that. Is it coming? Maybe. Is it here? Not yet. So 25 to 30 million, top end NASCAR Cup car. Indycar and NHRA is a significant drop down from there. Andretti Autosport said that they could see their budget going as high as 7, maybe 8 million. That's still less than a third of what Hendrick Motorsports is spending.
True.
And NHRA, even Top Fuel, about 5 to 6, 7, about similar, 5 million, give or take.
Yeah, ballpark.
Think about it. Formula E has been fairly quiet on how much it costs, by the way.
They have.
I'm going to be interested to find that out at some point in time. So, him to sit there and talk about, certainty of long-term budgets, you want a fantastic platform to demonstrate your competence and knowledge. Your knowledge, yeah. Your competence, yeah. Your ability to make long-term budgets when you're talking about $141 million per car.
Mm-hmm.
I better hope you got a long-term plan, because if you only got a short-term plan, you're going to find yourself long-term being out of the sport.
Mm-hmm.
So Audi, it looks like they're walking into this one with their eyes wide open, but those comments really kind of raised an eyebrow for me, which is why I wanted to bring this up. I think Audi does have their eyes wide open on this, but at the same time, I don't know what they're thinking, because this is the Volkswagen Group. Audi is one brand under the Volkswagen Group. You got Volkswagen, you got Audi, you got Porsche, along with, I believe, Lamborghini.
Mm-hmm.
But Lamborghini is kind of that, I don't know. It's kind of held at arm's length, kind of like Ferrari is over there when it used to be Fiat Chrysler.
Mm-hmm.
Ferrari's kind of its own little entity. Yeah, it's technically under our umbrella, but it's its own little entity over here.
Right.
Lamborghini's that same way for the most part. You're already committed with Audi. Porsche says we're going to get in. We just haven't found the right partnership yet.
Mm-hmm.
They still got until 2026 to find it, so don't go crying for them, whether you're in Argentina or not.
Right.
They're going to get there. But this is a significant outlay of money for the Volkswagen Group. Because in the end, while Audi probably has their own budgeting, so does Porsche, so does Volkswagen,
Right.
In the end, it all goes under the umbrella of the Volkswagen Motor Company.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all looking at the bottom line going, okay, 141 million there, 141 million there. And when Porsche gets in, 141 million there and 141 million there.
Mm-hmm.
That all adds up real fast.
Yeah, it does, and then some.
You better hope that you can do exactly what you said you're going to be able to do, because if you can't win, there's going to be some upset people on that board. I can tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm.
FIA officials are also hoping to stem this trend of the Formula One cars getting wider and a little bit heavier, too, which has been happening over the past couple of decades. A gentleman by the name of Nicholas Tombatsis, who is the tech director for the FIA for single-seat racing of all kinds, says he wants to see that begin to reverse course, beginning with this next generation of racers that's coming in 2026. He talked to GrandPrix.com. He explained what he meant by saying, quote, it's realistic to make these cars a little bit lighter, not significantly. We have to consider that the difference in weight since 2000 is about 200 kilograms. It's a huge number. Of those 200 kilograms, about 100 comes from the drive unit itself, from the electrical parts, from the batteries, the turbos, and so on. This accounts for about half this great increase in weight. So over time, the cars not only have grown in weight, but they've grown in size. Even the drivers have noted these cars are wider than, for example, as Tombatsis gave, the 2000 car. With the weight of the engine, then you get things like the Halo driver protection system, the reinforced bodywork in and around the driver area. It's good for safety. I get it. But yeah, the cars have indeed gained weight, and it did not necessarily help that they increased from 15 to 18-inch tires either. Tombatsis added to what he would like to see, quote, we'd like the cars of 2026 to be a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit narrower too, and all of this will contain the increase in weight. On the other hand, there's an increase in the battery because we're going to become a little more electric, so that'll add a little more weight. So the liquid effect, I'm hoping, is to be a little bit lighter, but not necessarily significantly. Me, personally, I'm thinking the better thought.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about the weight. Worry about the size. Bring the car back to its somewhat narrower proportions. That way, especially some of these street courses.
Yeah.
I like Baku, Azerbaijan.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice little street course, but it gets really narrow in some places.
Mm-hmm.
You thin out the cars a little bit, make them a little bit narrower. I'm talking about, your track from right wheel to left wheel, or driver's side to passenger side, or however you want to put it.
True.
Give you a little bit more opportunity to see a little bit more side by side, a little bit more passing opportunities. I think that's where you need to go.
Mm-hmm.
The weight I wouldn't worry about. If you can make them, and I'm not going to say 6 inches. I think that would be too dramatic. You might be able to do 3 and still be able to keep the safety factor in the cars. Because that to me is more important.
You could get away with 6. I think you can get away with 6.
Be tight. I think. I'd start with 3 and maybe work my way down.
Yeah, you could.
I mean, again, the driver's safety is the most important thing. And right now, you get those tires out there, and I get it. They're kind of cocooned in between a whole lot of things. But the tires give you, as far out as they sit, it gives you a little bit of extra cushion because you don't really have the bumpers or the bodywork that, for example, we see in stock cars.
Right.
I think if you went 3 inches, maybe 4, I think you could see a significant difference in the amount of availability of passing on the tighter courses that we were talking about. I wouldn't worry about the weight that much.
Yeah, just as the saying goes, shut up and drive the car. Shut up and drive the car.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, you're the tech director, dude. Make the rule.
Drive the car. Simple.
Make the rule. If you decide that you want the cars to be narrower, you're the guy at the FIA. You're over Formula One. Tell them, here's the new parameters for the car. Make it work. Is it that hard?
Obviously.
I guess. Former Formula One racer Felipe Streif has passed away. Streif, born in France in 1955, worked his way up through the racing ranks. By 1978, he'd raced in the 24 Hours Le Mans. He was also racing in Formula Renault. The next year, moved up to Formula 3. He was in Formula 2 by 1982. Finally got a chance in 1984 to run with Renault in Formula 1. He also raced with the Ligier team in 1985 and Tyrrell. Claimed 5 races total. Went full-time with Ligier in 1986, 1987 before running the majority of 1988 with the AGS team. In his time in Formula 1, he claimed 1 podium finish. That was 3rd in the Australian Grand Prix in 1985 and one of his 4 of the 5 races that year when he ran for Renault. He was set to run in 1989 but got into a preseason testing accident that unfortunately left him wheelchair-bound and paralyzed, ending his racing career. He wasn't totally out of the racing world, however. In 1994, he attempted to purchase the Ligier team with the support of Williams. The plan had been to make the team kind of Red Bull AlphaTauri, a junior team to Williams, but the bid unfortunately went unsuccessful. 2 years later, switching to Renault engines, Ligier was out of Formula One. They sold to Alain Prost. Passes away, unfortunately for him. Natural causes. And then one more note, just in the generic racing world here, we talked about how Kyle Larson has been trying to do some things within the sprint car world. Well, he and Brad Sweet created something called the High Limit Sprint Car Series. Set to run 12 races this coming year. Their season will begin March the 28th, run through October the 10th. The pair said that they wanted the series to come in as a supplement to other sprint car series, giving the drivers a chance at some big money midweek events. At least 2 of the races going to pay out $50,000 to win. All races are going to have a winner's payout of at least $23,000. And 10 states are going to play host to this now mostly Midwestern series. They noted that Indiana and Pennsylvania are going to get 2 races each. And I said mostly, you might have noted, because it actually starts in Tulare, California at Thunderbolt Raceway. They noted that most of the sprint car series seem to avoid California this year, so they wanted to put one there.
Thunderbolt is a pretty good little track to put one at.
Okay. From there, they're going to go to Kansas with Lakeside Speedway.
Good track.
34 Raceway in Iowa.
Yeah, it'll be okay.
Not exactly Knoxville. From there to Indiana to run at Kokomo Speedway.
Good one.
Wayne County Speedway in Ohio will be next.
Fast one.
Tri-City Speedway in Pennsylvania.
Question mark.
Why?
I'm not real familiar with Tri-City.
I gotcha. From Pennsylvania, they go to Nebraska and Eagle Raceway.
That'll be a fair one.
And then they go back to Pennsylvania. Speaking of map, would you? Grandview Speedway in Pennsylvania is next up.
Decent one.
Up to South Dakota, Hussett Speedway.
That'll be a real good one.
Back to Pennsylvania. Lernerville.
Very fast one.
Okay. Bridgeport Speedway in New Jersey.
Not familiar with Bridgeport.
And then they'll wrap up at Indiana with Lincoln Park Speedway.
That'll be a decent one to finish with. I would have finished with Lernerville, personally.
I got you. Well, this is relatively new. 2021, did it start last year or 2
No,
years?
it starts this year.
I thought it started last year. Okay.
It starts this year.
All right. Your thoughts on this? I mean, their stated intention is to give something midweek, something that won't interfere with any other sprint car series that's out there, and going to give some pretty decent paying purses.
It'll be something similar to the listeners and viewers that follow dirt late model racing. This is something similar to what Flow Racing's Castrol Night in America is. They'll run midweek, early week shows for big money that doesn't interfere with the weekend big races or the weekend shows in general. It's one of those midweek style setups that I think has the potential to have some success.
Okay. We'll see where it goes. I don't know whether this has television rights at this point in time.
To my knowledge, no.
You know, I mean, it's a perfect opportunity for your MAV TVs or really anybody else that chooses to get into it. So we'll have to find out what happens. But yeah, I kind of like the idea. Good luck to Kyle and Brad. I hope this thing works out very, very well. Again, everything starts up March the 28th and then just kind of on and off all the way through to October the 10th. It's too bad they're not coming to Alabama. But hey, there's time. If this series continues to grow, Could stretch out your map.
Yep.
All right, when we come up next, final segment of the show for today and for the year, we're going to look ahead to 2023 and make some pretty wild predictions and see if any of them happen to stick to the wall. It's myself and Matt doing that next on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. Appreciate you joining us here on this final day of 2022, New Year's Eve. Again, whatever you got planned, have a good time. Please be careful. Don't drink and drive. That's what Uber is for.
Bingo.
Or, unfortunately, jail. Which would you prefer, Uber or jail? Just asking. We're done with all the news, so we decided, and this was Matt's idea, and I have to admit, I kind of like it. So to wrap up 2022, instead of reviewing it, which everybody's doing ad nauseum today anyway, we're going to look ahead. 2023. Bring you some off-the-wall predictions.
Buckle up, you YouTubers that are watching.
That's
and
right.
The ones that are listening.
This is the equivalent of literally throwing something up against the wall and seeing if it sticks. Because if we were going to try and just, make predictions that were, I don't know, more than likely to happen, none of these would be on there. Just saying.
Yeah, none of these either.
All right, let's see what we can do. Where would you like to start, sir?
I was thinking, do we want to go lower series and finish with the top ones or go top down?
By all means. Start with the lower series, work our way up.
All right, I'll start with SRX.
Okay.
In the 2023 season, Smoke goes winless.
Ooh. That's a definite possibility considering the way that I have looked at the prediction for 2023.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which one of them will do it, but I'm saying that one driver, remember, there are only 6 races in this series.
Mm-hmm.
One driver is going to win at least 3 races this year.
I could see that one happen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we haven't had it happen so far. I can see it happen now. I don't know why, but I can.
Yeah.
Next up, where you want to go?
I'll go Formula E.
Works for me.
When the 2024 schedule gets revealed this year, the U.S. will have a second date.
They'd be smart if they did. You're talking about a second date in a second location?
Second location.
Second location. Okay.
Second date location.
All right. Here we go. How about this one? Former doormat known as Dragon Penske Racing, which is now reborn as DS Penske Racing.
Mm-hmm.
Between their 2 drivers, not only will they win multiple races, they will claim the driver and maker titles.
Woo!
We said it was off the wall.
Yeah,
See? Off the wall.
way off the wall.
Bouncing sillily, very silly off the wall.
All right, I'm going to stay in Worldwide Series with Formula One.
All right, let's do that.
Red Bull gets dethroned by Ferrari.
Okay.
Hamilton goes winless again.
Ooh, Hamilton winless 2 years in a row. You and I are fairly similar on that. I said Red Bull will not repeat as the Constructors' Cup champion, and I said that Max Verstappen will not win 3 titles in a row either. He seems to be the man on the move, but I'm sorry, I just don't think that it's going to happen 3 years in a row. There are too many people gunning for him.
Yeah, I could see that one.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all the ones, and even I'm counting mine, that's probably the most realistic one so far.
With all due respect to all of you Red Bull fans, sorry, not that big a one.
I'm going NHRA next.
Let's do that.
Erica Enders and Brittany Force will be dethroned out of being the top female racers of the series.
By who?
Camry Caruso.
Ooh. All right, then. That's a good one. Ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
NHRA. John Force. He's going to win at least 4 events this year, and he will reclaim the funny car title.
That one is actually the most realistic one now. That's very realistic. All right.
What are we at? IndyCar. Or do you want to go Craftsman Truck Series before we
I'll
go
let you go
IndyCar?
IndyCar.
Okay, we'll do IndyCar. Let's see. So Santino Ferrucci, as we kind of noted, he is moving back over to IndyCar. Not only will he win this coming year in his full-time IndyCar return, that returns A.J. Foyt Racing to Victory Lane. When was the last time A.J. Foyt Racing visited Victory Lane? Oh, it's been a while.
It's been quite a while.
I say Santino Ferrucci does it.
John, I said these were supposed to be off the wall. He's actually going more realistic by the way each more ones.
You think, huh?
Yeah, I knew he would.
Yeah. IndyCar. Ed Carpenter breaks through finally and wins the Indy 500.
Ooh. Okay. He's been threatening for it for a while.
And
Uh-oh.
one Andretti car will miss the 500.
Missed the 5. Okay, not qualified.
Miss the 500.
Not qualify for it. Okay. I like where you're going. Craftsman Truck Series?
Trucks. This one may be... this one may end up being the most realistic one that I have. I could see it happening. And I'm starting right out of the gate at Daytona. Matt DiBenedetto repays the favor from Talladega and pushes Brett Holmes to the win.
Ooh. Okay. I like where you're going with that. I went with the obvious Haley Deegan. She will win multiple races in the 13th Sport.
See, he's going even more realistic.
I can see actually
I can see that one.
happening.
I mean,
can see that.
from a
look
lady
forward
who
to it.
has, been a little questionable, I say, going back to what we were talking about earlier, if Matt Crafton and Ben Rhodes literally take her willingly under their wing and she listens, this is, I at one point in time, I was thinking winning a race would be the breakthrough. But the truth of the matter is, if you've really arrived, and ThorSport has a good team, we know that. Now, do a lot of things have to come together? Yes.
Yep.
But I still say that those things will come together, and not only will it be one, it will be multiple races for this coming year.
I could see her being one of the first 3 regular drivers of the series to lock in the playoffs. One of the first 3.
I can believe that. Okay. Xfinity?
I'm going to go to manufacturer related.
Ooh.
Sam Hunt Racing will win a race before Joe Gibbs Racing will.
Oh, wow. Sam Hunt would be elated with that.
Yes, he would.
This one's quite realistic as well, just because of the fact that when I'm looking at what he does, Cole Custer, he's dropping back down from the Cup Series down to the Xfinity Series. He's going to pick right where he left off. He's going to win the most races this coming year.
There's another brand new, most realistic one, because that probably will happen.
I could easily see that. I mean, despite the fact that you've got really good teams in the aforementioned Joe Gibbs Racing team and others, and kind of a resurgent, if you will. I mean, there's Junior Motorsports there. There's Joe Gibbs Racing there. There's kind of a resurgent Richard Childress Racing when it comes to this as well. And Hendrick Motorsports is still playing around with the idea of the Xfinity Series. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, Cole Custer seems so comfortable at this level. He was just a little bit over his head in the Cup Series.
Yeah.
This is that level that he is ultimately comfortable at. I could see him coming right in and dominating right off the bat. And more than likely, in my mind, claiming the title.
Probably.
And that brings us to the Cup Series.
All right. 3 ball into 1 here.
Oh, here we go.
The prominent days of past come back to life.
Oh.
RCR will sweep the super speedways this year.
Ooh, okay. With Kyle Busch in there, and yeah, okay.
RCR will sweep the super speedways.
I see where you're going.
All 4 Stewart-Haas cars will advance to the round of 8 in the playoffs with wins.
Ooh, okay.
And last but not least, not 1, but 2 prominent tracks will lose a date on the 2024 schedule.
Oh, gosh, yeah. See, that, to me, that's your most realistic one right there. With everything that we have been listening to and hearing from the higher-ups at NASCAR, yeah, I could easily see a couple of tracks being off the schedule from 2023 into 2024.
And I could see it being New Hampshire.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Pocono.
Pocono gone. They lose their one weekend. Ooh. All right.
Because I got to see it's going to come from, typically when they lose them like that, one comes from SMI, one comes from ISC. And I'm still going to call it ISC.
Okay. Yeah.
Even though Pocono is not under the ISC banner.
It's owned and it's kind of considered one because MRN is the one that's there, and MRN does only the ISC tracks generally. So, yeah, I see where you're coming from.
I only have one.
It either comes from either Dover or New Hampshire. I'm going to lean New Hampshire.
Okay. John?
I only have one prediction.
What do you got?
Off the wall. Crazy, absurd, yeah, right, going to happen. Danica Patrick gets a wild hair, comes back to NASCAR, finds a ride, takes the championship for 23.
Oof. That's one wild prediction.
That's wild. That's very wild.
Yeah, that'd be wild. My prediction comes from the playoffs here. Round of 8. You said all 4 SHR cars would make it that far?
Mm-hmm.
I predicted no Joe Gibbs Racing cars will make it that far. Not a one. They lost the one guy, in my mind, who was almost a lock to get there, and guess what he didn't do?
I had one for Cup that I didn't put in there.
Okay.
And I toyed with a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I even had it and was going to put it. Joe Gibbs will not win a race before July.
See, See, I'm thinking about the races that lead up to July.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. As I think of down that list, up and down that list, there's no one that sticks out as obvious that says to me, yeah, there's a JGR win right there. You might be onto something. You might be onto something. Why are we picking on Joe Gibbs Racing? I like Joe personally. I met the guy once. Really nice guy.
Because they consistently choke away talent.
Exactly. And you've lost your arguably best talent that you had. Didn't really even seem to make any kind of a sincere effort to keep him there.
Nope.
Kyle Busch was your leader in the clubhouse. Martin Truex Jr. is a great guy. Denny Hamlin, probably a great guy. Denny Hamlin got more days behind him than ahead of him. So does Martin Truex Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you got youngster Christopher Bell, who shows a lot of promise. But I'm sorry, folks, between him and the other three drivers that are currently in there, I don't consider Christopher Bell the leader in that clubhouse.
No.
Sorry, I just don't. This is a team that is in the middle of a massive transition, and it's about to get worse because, like I said, I think you're about to lose Martin Truex Jr. and Denny Hamlin. Is it next year after the 2023 season? I don't know. Is it shortly after that? I don't know. But it's going to happen soon where you're going to lose both Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. This team is in a massive, major transition, plus the fact that Joe Gibbs Racing doesn't have that line of succession anymore with the unfortunate passing of Coy Gibbs.
Right.
So we don't know where it's going to go. And honestly, I think that will have an effect on what happens on the track.
Right.
Now, if they're listening, they're doubling down and going, oh, yeah, we'll show you. Which, by all means, take the challenge on.
I'll even twist off of my tracks losing a date in 24.
Okay.
North Wilkesboro gets a points race back
Okay.
and becomes the new Bristol for ticket demand. The Bristol
I
of
can
old.
easily see that.
Bristol of old
You want
becomes
to?
the new demand.
I'll do an off-the-wall track prediction. And I'm not so certain that this is terribly off the wall considering the work that's been done to this facility so far. They'll decide to give North Wilkesboro Speedway a points race, and they'll take the All-Star race and put it at Rockingham.
I knew you was going with that.
I could see that. Again, the work that they are doing, what we've been keeping up with, and we've been keeping up with the work being done at North Wilkesboro, and they're doing a very nice job.
Oh, yeah.
And it will continue after the All-Star race. But they're doing a lot of the same work in a lot of ways up at Rockingham because they want to get that thing back to racing as well. And their intention, kind of like Nashville Fairgrounds, is to bring back NASCAR on some level.
Yeah. And here's the thing about these two tracks. Collectively, eyes have been laid on one track together.
Mm-hmm. Rockingham.
I've had my eyes on Wilkesboro. Rockingham is in 10 times better shape to host a race.
It was at the time that we laid our eyes.
At the time we laid our eyes on it.
Let's put it that way.
Let me back that up. At the time we laid our eyes on it. If you was to say which track hosts a date tomorrow,
we would have gone Rockingham.
Rockingham in the snap of a finger.
Absolutely. Because, even though the pavement was cracking in some places, it was in infinitely much better shape.
Past raceable.
Than what you were describing. Because, again, I wasn't there when he went and watched or looked at North Wilkesboro. The amount of work that they have done, because iRacing became interested in Dale Earnhardt Jr., no less, spearheaded the effort. North Wilkesboro fast-tracked to get ready to do what they did a couple of months ago and to be ready come this spring, early summer, depending on how you want to look at the calendar. Rockingham is quietly very prepared to go racing in a very short period of time as well. So I can easily see this.
Absolutely.
The last prediction I'm going to make, and unfortunately this is not off the wall, is that Nashville's going to continue to drag their feet when it comes to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway and lose massively on any of this because they should be right there with the other two as legendary tracks fighting to get back in.
Agreed. Fully agreed.
Wow. 2022 fly by, and so did this morning. But you know what? 2023 will be here, and we'll be here next week, ushering it in with you and talking about all the things that have happened over the course of this past week.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
As we mentioned before, whatever it is that you got planned for today and tonight, be careful. Have a good time, but be careful. And if you have a little bit too much, swallow your pride in addition to the drink and call cab, call an Uber, call a friend. Don't get pulled over and end up spending the new year in jail.
Bingo.
We'll talk to you again next week right here on the Championship Racing Network.
See ya.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM
and